Hello everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do my fifth installment in my series, Slatkin Co. From the Vault, Harry, Bring Them Back. Which, if you've not seen the first four videos, I recommend going back, watch those sort of in order as we go through the seasons up until today's video. But essentially what I'm doing is I'm going through my kind of personal vault of Slatkin Co. candles from the Bath & Body Works era of Slatkin Co., which ran from about 2005 to 2012, 2013-ish. And so with that, Harry Slatkin, obviously we all know and love HomeWorx now, and it's been HomeWorx by Harry Slatkin. He regained control or sort of ownership of the Slatkin Co. brand name after many years after the partnership dissolved at Bath & Body Works. And now you see HomeWorx by Slatkin Co., ScentWorx by Slatkin Co., etc. And so on Instagram last summer, Harry sort of hinted or insinuated that perhaps there will be some relaunches, reimaginings, as I've been calling it, of classic Slatkin Co. scents from potentially even beyond, earlier than the Bath & Body Works era of Slatkin Co. because it was around for many years before partnering with Bath & Body Works L brands. And so I've gone through, I've picked out, my top 10 or 12 of Harry Bring Them Back, these amazing scents that we haven't seen in some cases for 10, 12 plus years. And so did the first four videos, we had the holiday, winter, we had spring, we did the summer, did autumn. And I'm here now to sort of do a catch-all of fragrances that these could maybe be put within certain seasons if you are a seasonal burner, which I typically am, and of course marketing's primarily done seasonally based, but there are certainly fragrances that could be burned year-round. And so I've got, as usual, 12, actually I ended up going baker's dozen with 13 scents here, and they're a very interesting mix. I think these ones, perhaps more than other videos, the other collections that I did for the seasonal Bring Them Back reimagining requests, Harry, if you're listening. These ones are a fair amount of some classic, I think, strong, sellers from the Slatkin Co. era at Bath & Body Works, though some are from failed test collections or scents that didn't really go wide or make it, which is a shame, and I think it speaks more to just like kind of the demographic that Bath & Body Works was going after at the time versus the quality of the blends, because I think some of these are really high-end, beautiful, fine home fragrance, which Slatkin Co. of course is known for. So let's dig right on in. First, start with the gourmands and tell you some stories. I always like to do my, historical knowledge / story time / running on and on about fragrances. So first up, we've got here Slatkin Co. This is Frosted Tangerine Cake. This is an interesting sort of story where they did, as you see right here, Bath & Body Works Slatkin Co. This was in like mid 2011. They did a recipe contest where they had folks submit their recipes and then turn them into these gourmand candles. Ended up having 3 that released. So you had Frosted Tangerine Cake, Toasted Pistachio Delight, and then Sticky Toffee Pudding. I believe I did not purchase the Sticky Toffee Pudding. It was, gooey caramel, nutty, gooey caramel, not really my bag typically. The Toasted Pistachio Delight was nice. I had it, I burned through it. And the Frosted Tangerine Cake, I believe I loved the most, I think. Although maybe the pistachio, because I did burn through that one and I saved or held on to this one. So both very good, unique, and they weren't your typical Bath & Body Works, what you see now when they do bakery. So what I'll call out about this is my nose has potentially failed me just a tiny bit because I was believing last year in 2020, that Mary Madeline Cookie, Bath & Body Works, during their Holiday 2020 collection, was a repackage of Frosted Tangerine Cake many, many years later. Like, wild to see that. However, I'm not certain because it actually, based on notes, could be the Toasted Pistachio Delight. Seems pretty closely aligned, but when I smelled this, I thought Frosted Tangerine Cake. The notes on Frosted Tangerine Cake are a delicious blend of fresh tangerine and sweet pineapple with powdered sugar, rich cream cheese frosting, and a hint of coconut. Now, you're talking this candle is, 11 years old now. It burned well, but because I haven't burned it in probably like 10 years, it's hard to get a true read on the scent, especially when it's something that is as soft and dairy-like as sort of a bakery notes. What is great about this, it's citrus, but it's not your bright, zesty lemon sugar crystal citrus, which is great, which I love it. Your limoncello cupcakes from HomeWorx, pink lemon shortbread, love that. But this is just a sweet, fresh tangerine, almost as if you had those little canned mandarin oranges on top of like whipped cream with an almond cake base is really what I got from this. So just a fresh mandarin or tangerine, just the fruit, the juice itself, with cream cheese frosting. I didn't get so much in this. Coconut, a little bit of like just shredded coconut, not toasted even, just shredded coconut on this whipped cream, almost like could be maybe just a little bit of cream cheese in there to give it a little bit of sour, a little bit of tang with the typical whipped cream. But it was just such a fresh gourmand that was super unique. It didn't lean full on tropical, though it had pineapple and tangerine in the notes. Love that. Would love to see something like this reimagined, as Harry's been doing a lot of really great gourmands with HomeWorx, especially this year in particular, but love that one. And the other close to gourmand would be Toasted Almond. Boy, oh boy, do I love this candle. So this was launched, I believe this was actually a failed test scent. And I do believe it also was launched alongside sort of the original test of a test kind of the Boardwalk collection. So not the big one that came out with suntan and white sand and summer boardwalk and all of that, but there was the one where salty caramel, cotton candy, lime ice, where those first came out. I believe that Toasted Almond was with those. And the image here is almost like New York City. If you're walking down the street in any sort of tourist area, there's a man with these sort of like salted mixed nuts that are cooking in big copper kettles, almost the way they do kettle corn, but with nuts. That's what this looks like, not what it smells like. But that would make it make sense in that collection. Notes on this one: toasted almonds and shea butter blend perfectly with juicy apple and pear blossom. So you see, that is not so much this is a conceptual to me. It's not like toasted almond. This isn't sweet. This isn't foodie at all to me. The candle I think this actually may be closest to in my mind, at least that I can think of today, would be the HomeWorx Almond Flower Candle, which is notes of almond blossom, creamy pistachio, orange flower, and vanilla bean. Different than this for sure, but you get a little bit of the blossom. You get, what they don't list there is the shea, and I do get a similar sense. Shea is just sort of a little bit nutty, sometimes a little bit smoky or almost sour. Not something that you see super often in home fragrance, but it just brings this warmth. I don't want to say exotic, but this intriguing sort of almost nutty, almost kind of warm, round, I don't know, like, it doesn't smell like a hand cream, but just it, like, the idea of what shea butter is, so just that thick moisturizer, right? It's just very unique. Beautiful scent. Would love to see this reimagined. Let's move on to sort of the fresh, let's call them aromatherapies. They're not exactly aromatherapies, but they get close to it, right? So first up, from the Aromatherapy Home, unfortunately failed two rounds of tests, and they both pretty much failed, I believe. I'll get into that maybe in another time. It was actually my very first video on this channel back in 2012. I talked through what I called the Gold Lid Aromatherapy collection because it was the first time gold lids had been used in any of the Bath & Body Works Slatkin Co collections. This one was called, there were many. I want to say 8 and then maybe 6. So at least probably 12 different blends between the two releases. This one was called Happiness. Notes brighten each moment with wild mint, sparkling citrus, and vanilla. Oh, it's so nice. It's probably a bit of a spearmint because it's wild mint, but it's not overly peppermint. It really is a soft, sweet, almost towards, like your chewing gum, but not candied mint. It's still an authentic mint. There's more citrus than vanilla. The vanilla is there, but it's cool in the background. It's not candy to foodie vanilla. Like, it's not like that. Sometimes vanilla bean in candles like this can lean a little bit towards like a frosting or whatever. I want to say some version of like maybe a Meyer lemon, like kind of a sweeter lemon, but I also, what's surprising is this doesn't smell like your limoncello or a kitchen lemon. It's one of those aromatherapies where it is bright and uplifting, maybe not energizing, but uplifting. So love to see something like that. Honestly, an entire collection like this, a true sort of aromatherapy collection from Slatkin Co, reimagined. Incredible. Going to a couple of others here. This one, many people are familiar with this. They know it. They, I believe, love it. Fresh cotton. This, I believe, you can still get in, I want to say, Wallflowers at Bath & Body Works. Fresh cotton. So not the seashore or the sea island, not that cotton, but just this is a traditional fresh cotton, which does not go full-on laundry like a lot of the ones that are out at Bath & Body Works in 2022. This has a fresh, clean blend of white jasmine petals, lemon zest, and nuances of rose and spring muguet. So many florals in there, right? They're not saying, linens or laundry or whatever, but you're getting florals, and lemon zest. Now, I do believe there's probably more in here. There's got to be some sort of, I don't know if it's a background of a musk, a sheer musk, a white wood. There's some base note to this that's heavy, but this is one of those, it will clean your air. Now, it is just, and I believe it was actually sold once as sort of the odor eliminating aromatherapy when they were doing that at Bath & Body Works, and it was the same scent for the cotton with that. if you love fresh bamboo, it's in that family, although this is not the green spa. This is just the bright, fresh home cleaner. I won't go too in depth with that. I think most people know it, but it's not the way some of the classic signature collections of Bath & Body Works get overly powdery to me. This one doesn't go into the powdery side of things. It doesn't overwhelm, though it's so strong it doesn't make you go like this and choke you out the way that sometimes a perfume will, which is interesting. So it's a really quality blend that it can be so heavy, so much powder, but not choke you out. It's like just to the edge of choking you out. Love that. Would love to see that reimagined in some form with Slatkin Co. Then we go into, oh boy. These here are 3 of my top Slatkin Co fragrances of all time. One of them is probably in my top 5. Incredible. I'll get to that one last from this trio. First up, we've got Eucalyptus. This is, first of all, so clean, so classic, so simple. Literally eucalyptus and in the name. I love that. This is sort of, it would be interesting to see Slatkin Co reimagine something that is just the truest form of a note that is used in so many blends, sort of give their interpretation of this is what we believe eucalyptus looks like when best expressed in wax. Now, of course, there are other notes in here, but make that eucalyptus accord with different notes to give us the classic eucalyptus, which is what this was. A refreshing and uplifting scent, combining crisp eucalyptus with hints of orchard citrus. A little vague, but that's okay. Oh boy. This is, the way that fresh cotton is cleaner, it's powdery, similar to this. It is kind of astringent, but it is, eucalyptus can be a little powdery and soft, literally kind of powdery almost on the leaves, like a dried eucalyptus. This doesn't lean toward the menthol or overly astringent or oily. It's soft but strong, and it is unabashedly eucalyptus. Maybe a little bit of almost like kind of a sage or something in there without getting too warm and round. It's still fresh and strong. Orchard citrus, that could be a little bit of a blossom because it's not zesty, it's not juicy. It is eucalyptus through and through. The wax color matches the smell of it perfectly. It's just, I've never smelled any eucalyptus that is as good, strong, and authentic as this eucalyptus is. And I would love to see this be reimagined, or, when I say reimagined, some of them it's like, just bring it back and use maybe higher quality blends of oils. I don't want it to be drastically changed necessarily because it's already so good. Then we have sort of a play on that, which I believe this was a failed test scent around the same time as that Toasted Almond, and that is Eucalyptus Citrus. Now look at that, like neon key lime sort of wax and Eucalyptus Citrus. So we're going, again, simple. This is when they did sort of like their, basil leaf and tea, orange blossom and, XYZ. They were going a little simplistic there, which was really, really beautiful blends. This one being sparkling orange and lemon, blend perfectly with fresh eucalyptus and a hint of spearmint. So what it says, so they're taking the base of their eucalyptus blend, getting a little bit more sparkling with that orange and lemon, and then just a little bit of spearmint. Oh my God. This one it's hard to describe. The mint, cooling factor, but not mint the way that, let's say, that Happiness had a true, you could smell a spearmint. The mint is very background for here. This could almost be the base of a really green, sparkling kind of mojito, which, not the sparkling mojito from Slatkin Co, but this could be the base of almost a very green cocktail, slightly tropical. Because the sparkling orange and lemon are just so beautifully bright and juicy, but with that powdery heaviness and greenness, the verdant eucalyptus, and the spearmint again just adds like a little twinkle to it. It's not minty in itself. It's like 5% of the blend. But this one also, it's a cleaner, but it is so, you just want to bite into the scent, which is, it's kind of like when Kent at the Candle Channel says it's so juicy. Not necessarily, juicy like a beverage, but like this is just, you just want to bite into it. Even though it's not necessarily an edible scent, it's so complex and balanced, and honestly, you can just smell the quality. It's beautiful, and I love that one. Would love to see that reimagined. And then one of my very first purchases with Slatkin Co, and I'm holding on to that, although I will say, they were doing sort of these like Yankee-style jars for a while, in some sense, at Bath & Body Works. The pour date on this was the end of the year in 2009. So they were still doing these sort of transitioning the public into the three wick jars that are now everywhere from sort of the down home Yankee style that many folks were used to in home fragrance. So it's the same thing, and it was actually also still 14.5 ounces, but it was a single wick. So we know how single wicks tend to burn, but it said here, you know, the Slatkin Co etched into the glass, and this one, it did not pull out all that well, as you can see. I didn't do any, I think I burned it one time, and I was like, you know what, don't want to ruin it. But this, of course, beautiful burn on that. Really, like, no soot, just classic burn. The notes on this, my God, this is an amazing scent. The notes on this are not on the bottom. However, I Googled it, and this, I believe, was actually a port from literally the vaults of Slatkin Co. when they came to Bath & Body Works. I don't believe this was created at Bath & Body Works, because they actually sold this when Slatkin Co. was at Bergdorf Goodman. They did sell green tea and white pear. The notes on it, and shockingly enough, there's still a listing on the Bergdorf Goodman website for this candle from way back in the day. Wish I could purchase it. Hasn't been sold there for a decade plus, but the notes on this, beautiful, are, I'll read it verbatim. This clean, fresh fragrance fills the room with Asian pear and fresh yuzu, while green tea mixed with watery florals float over oak, patchouli, and warm musk. So green tea and white pear. I love a tea scent. This probably was the start of my love of tea scents, quite honestly. Pear, but it's not your juicy pear that you're used to, though it is, but it's not 80% pear like so many pear blends that we see now. You've got the pear, you've got citrus, so yuzu is kind of similar to a lemon, thick skin, very zesty and bright, very common in Asia. The green tea is gonna be like sort of like your matcha powder, so it's gonna be astringent, it's going to be bright, it's going to be fresh, it's going to be grassy. Some watery florals, totally get that, almost a little bit of like lotus vibe in there. Oak, patchouli, and warm musk. You would think oak and patchouli, how is that gonna be a spa? How is it gonna be something bright like a green tea and white pear? It's a base note, but it almost sits on top of the pear to keep it from being just this juice bomb that is just, you know, pear juice all over your face and it smells just like fall and a beautiful orchard, but fine. And it's not like the heirloom orchard where they throw in wood and balance it out in HomeWorx, which I do like that one a lot. It really is like a layer, a veil of some sort of lotus, I want to say lotus flower, maybe a water lily, with the powder of oak, the warmth of patchouli, a little bit of musk, the animalic, but the pear, green tea, and yuzu being forefront. This, to me, honestly, this is like a masterclass in how to build scent and how to throw in notes that you'll be like, what are you talking about? And it just works perfectly. I could smell it all day. It's just so good, you guys. Please reimagine it. Please bring something like that back, because you just don't get those blends. HomeWorx does unique blends. I love HomeWorx, don't get me wrong. You'll see hauls and hauls and hauls of it. It really is incredible. I haven't seen one quite like this from them. So reimagine, please. Then we'll go into, I'll save my sort of forest collection for last. There are 5 candles from that, a failed test collection. So it shows you like what was BBW doing that they were failing out 5 of 8 incredible scents. What was BBW doing? We go to, this is, boy, Bronze Blogger. Everyone knows and loves Bronze Blogger from back in the day. He retired from his blog in early 2021, which is honestly such a loss with the candle community, because his nose and his reads and his opinions were just some of the best. Just shout out to the Bronze Blogger. Love the Bronze Blogger and what he did. Would love to see, maybe, listen, if I came back for 3 years, maybe he could come back. I don't know. If you're watching, we're waiting for you. This was his, as he calls his bay from back in the day, Peruvian black pepper and bergamot. Now we've seen this as black pepper and bergamot. It's come out a few times the past few years, but for some reason did not stick around as a staple, which I feel like if they brought it out now, forget the men's collection, the vintage, the graphite, the ocean, the oak, the whatever they're doing, bring up black pepper bergamot. It is gorgeous. The little story in this one, there was a failed test collection. I believe it was called the World Passport Collection, something like that. Don't have any photos of the marketing, because it pretty much failed, with I think a few that went wide with a renaming, which just goes to show some wildness at the Bath & Body Works. So it was Peruvian black pepper and bergamot, Indian mahogany and teakwood, Himalayan chai, and then I believe through some Googling I did, and these sounded vaguely familiar to me, Moroccan woods, and then Tahitian vanilla. I thought it was like a Madagascar vanilla, but it would make sense Tahitian vanilla. Those tested, I believe it was just those 5. You had this one that was this dark brown. They had this beautiful sort of like painted like wood. It almost looks like this was like a thin sheet of some sort of like island wood that then was painted. Really kind of beautiful, different style of marketing versus just, you know, sort of using the photographs imagery, but not as cheesy as like, oh, passport, stamp on it and, you know, put a little postage stamp around it. It was a little bit, you know, it was more elevated than that. So Indian mahogany teakwood, funnily enough, was mahogany teakwood. That is what their top selling scent now. It was first launched as Indian mahogany teakwood. This was Peruvian black pepper and bergamot. Then you had the Himalayan chai, which was a deep, deep orange. I actually showed that, I believe, in the fall from the Vault video. Moroccan woods I didn't purchase, Tahitian vanilla I didn't purchase. They were fine, they were interesting, weren't my favorite. I loved this one. This was far beyond mahogany teakwood for me, ever. Incredible. What is so funny is they ended up releasing, I believe, just the Peruvian black pepper and bergamot, Indian mahogany and teakwood. However, when they went wide, same labels, they dropped Peruvian and they dropped Indian. And I don't think it was something where it was like due to misuse or sort of anything derogatory or you know, tone deaf. I think it was because folks were buying like, oh, Peruvian, what is that? Versus black pepper and bergamot, they could stand. So they literally released the exact same collection, dropped the Peruvian, dropped Indian, which just became mahogany teakwood, and this became black pepper and bergamot. What's so funny is, in the test store I used to purchase these, at one point, while black pepper and bergamot was out and selling fine, that was on sale for the regular, I don't know, $10 basically at the time. These were 75% off simply because they said Peruvian on them. So I purchased these for like $3 something after coupon, $3.12, I think maybe after coupon, when people were paying a full price essentially for it just without Peruvian name. Crazy, right? Notes on this bad boy: an enchanting combination of citrus, spice, and exotic bergamot with fresh black pepper and patchouli. Heavy, heavy, heavy things. It's gorgeous. It's one of those, it almost feels like some cedar in there too. It's like woody, it's brown. You've got pepper. It is a true fine home fragrance. I would probably wear this as a fine personal fragrance. It is rich. It is, for lack of a better term, exotic. It is, the pepper is there. It's on the top note of some like black peppercorn. The bergamot, that bitter orange, but really strong. But you don't call out orange because it's the bergamot. The patchouli is like a fresh green patchouli. It's not your, you know, head shop, you know, incense kind of patchouli that you might think. What I'm going to do, I believe, is actually a series of Slatkin Co from the Vault, just some of my favorites, some old ones. So for instance, if you follow me on TouchTheFireTwice Instagram, I showed a fresh nectar Slatkin Co that I purchased from, again, 2008, 2009, that had never been burned. I had never had it before. I burned it. I actually lit it on National Fragrance Day, and I will be doing a review on that, just sort of. None of us can get them unless we, you know, troll eBay or Mercari for them. But let's go in depth with just the love of fragrance, because it's not always about, hey, this is for sale, go buy it. It's just, let's explore this scent, because we all love fragrance, right? So this actually might be in that series as well, because I could talk for 20 minutes just based on this candle and do some comparisons for those folks who, I think now people are a little bit more willing to venture into what is commonly referred to as like the cologne scents or the men's fragrances or men's candles, men's collection, which I hate that. I think that's beyond stupid and offensive and just ridiculous that has to be, oh, that's just a fine, sexy man, and women won't like that, and men won't like a floral candle. Like, your gender does not define what your nose likes. Like, give me a break, right? So, not a fan of that kind of marketing at all. But if, you know, people are exploring more, they're going into, you know, what they typically call the cologne, you know, some of those Bath & Body Works online exclusive now. Y'all would love something like this if you like those. And it doesn't have to be for a man. It doesn't have to be sniffing a man. A lesbian could love this and not be trying to find a man, okay? Ooh, so good. So good. And as I turn into my soapbox rant here, Welcome to Touch Fire Twice. Then our final 5 here. I'll go through these a little quicker because I did a 55-minute video on these when they first launched. That's not what this is going to be, though I certainly could do it. And it'll be interesting to know like what my nose was like 9-10 years ago when I first smelled these. So I'm going to show you just like, actually, I'll just show you a picture here rather than trying to hold 5 candles. This was the thumbnail from that collection, from that video. This was a collection that they were testing toward the tail end, I believe. This was mid 2012, so the last year, or late 2012, the last year of the Slatkin Co partnership at Bath & Body Works. And I actually spoke with someone in the test store in Primus, New Jersey, that I believe is probably from Slatkin Co, sort of their headquarters on Broadway in Manhattan. And she mentioned that this was based on the Allegheny National Forest. I don't believe it was gonna be marketed necessarily as that, but that's what they said it was inspired by. The fragrances in here, I have 5, again, of the, I wanna say 7 or 8 that launched and all failed, in fact. They're just so unique. Think of the mountain leaves from that fall video that I loved. I've never smelled candles like almost any of these, and they are not, 1 or 2 could be that kind of cologne. It could be sold in the men's collection as a, fine fragrance body care sort of standard thing. But the other ones are intense and in-depth, authentic expressions, all accord-based, all conceptual-based of different parts of a forest. And I love how kind of granular they get, because it's not just, oh, here's, if you like these scents, here we have 1 or 2 scents that are that, and you're gonna get like a cedar, sandalwood, something or other with a little bit of berries. Might be really good, but that's your choice. This was like 6 or 8 of really intricate, different expressions of an entire walk through a national forest. Beautiful, and I love the art design, everything about it. So in no particular order, I will start with Red Oak Tree. So let's talk about this. So this is, you can see this is very reminiscent of the 2012 sort of fall design artwork, where it took the 2011 silver square label, they threw on this sort of slightly distressed kind of bold Arial font that kind of disappears when you're burning it, almost luminary style, with beautiful photos, probably stock photos, but beautiful photos, good wax. And this is sort of a nice graphite carbon brushed, almost gunmetal sort of lids there, really nice. Notes on Red Oak Tree. This impressive blend of apple, red oak, white cedar, and a hint of agave fragrance celebrates the majestic oak tree. So we're talking about red oak, and it's an accord built based on apple, oak, cedar, and agave. There's something fresh and raw about this that is so interesting, as if you literally are at the base of this tree, and there might be a little bit of fungus on it. It's a little bit, not quite musty. It's still aromatic in a positive way, but you're getting the resinous depth of the oak and cedar. A little sweetness, perhaps. I don't know that I'd call it apple. Almost a bit of like an apple, apple wood. Not a fresh, juicy apple by any means. This is one of the heavier ones of the group. Slightly powdery from the oak, but there's something, I wish I had the full, this thing has 8 or 10, 12 notes in it. So if anyone's watching, whoever worked with this, not that you would be, but ever created this collection, anything you want to share, I am all ears. Super unique. Like, I've never smelled anything remotely similar to this at Bath & Body Works since then, 10 years ago. Red Oak Tree, beautiful. Let's go from red to black. Black Forest Woods. Again, this deep gray, and you just have this greenery at the base of an old tree that's got that, black bark on it. This one, an aromatic blend of white fir, juniper, and blackberry oak, and forest berries, conjures up one of the world's most magnificent forests. So we're talking fir and juniper. I love me some conifers, I love me some pines. Blackberry, oak, forest berries. I love wood and berries. It's not gonna be edible gourmands, but black forest, it's almost like black fruits and wine. This one is kind of sweet. It's a soft, round wood. The white fir and juniper, there's nothing holiday about this. The juniper is sort of some of the sweetness you can sometimes get from juniper, but it's not your birch, your balsams. It is white fir, which is bright, fresh, almost aromatherapy astringent. The sweetness of juniper, like think of juniper berries and gin, right? Blackberry, oak. I don't know if this is blackberry oak or blackberries and oak. Almost looks like there could be a comma missing there. But I could see forest berries and blackberry, because it is sort of, again, black fruits. Bitter, almost not really ripe. Almost like a half ripe. So you've got the flavors, but it's like when you're drinking a wine that has black fruits in it, it's not going to necessarily be sweet. It can be a no sugar, dry wine, but you're still getting the flavors. And that's what the blackberry and the forest berries come in this. Dark, mysterious. This could be a Halloween candle if they were trying to market it. This is, you're deep in the forest with this one. This is like, you're walking into the forest at the entrance. It's, a fall day, it's bright. There's almost, I actually didn't call out, almost like a vinegary note to this, like a balsamic, something really interesting. This is softer, sweeter, but darker Black Forest woods. Then we keep walking, we get to the stream, and the stream has moss and cedar flower. This is perhaps the most unique for me. This one is wild. So moss is going to grow on, trees and on vegetation, but also if you're walking, why I say the stream, you're gonna have those little flowers that are on the border of the babbling brook that are starting to grow, the cedar flower, near the tree. You're going to have some rocks, maybe some like granite or slate, the bedrock of this forest you're walking through, and there might be, a little waterfall, a little stream going through there. And the moss is gonna grow very much on the rocks on the bank of that brook. And that is exactly what I smell in this. So the notes in this one, I actually had this fell, this candle 10 years ago, it fell, I broke it, and I had to re-home it. And so it was one that didn't have a label on the bottom. But the notes on this one were, a fragrance that embodies the mossy heart of the forest with earthy notes of climbing moss, black moss, cypress, and vetiver. Vetiver grows in marshes, it's a green grass, and the scent actually comes from the roots. What this smells like to me, so you get a little bit of that cedar, you get those mossy, the lichen, so it's earthy, but it's green. It's not quite aquatic, but almost there. It's like mushy, it's squishy. Cypress leans a very sort of green cedar, like a little bit warmer than sort of your typical, pines and things like that, or evergreens. But what is not listed in that I smell 100% in this is slate. If you were to go with me on this walk, if you were to lick slate, the minerality, or certain wines that are, grapes that grew in a shale bed, the minerality that comes into the wine, literally, and I was at a wine class once where they kind of passed around a rock, and I think it was wet, and you smell it, and it was like, it smells almost like kind of wet concrete, but not quite concrete. The minerality that if you like lick a piece of slate, it has that burst of minerals, that dryness, even though it's wet, and that is precisely what is in here. This should have had shale minerality and or like brook or something, or babbling brook or something in the name, because so unique. The one I will say, kind of like, what's the right vibe you want to burn this for? Because it's weird. It's a little weird. So maybe that's why some of these failed, because it's people are like, oh, that's, unless they love the art of fragrance, they might not say, oh, this is exactly what my house will smell like when they're going for, either cookies and cream or cinnamon frosting. You're not gonna necessarily like this. But so unique. Two more. Stick with me. Woodland Herbs. So we walked through the forest and we're going to a clearing now, and there's a bit of a meadow in the forest, and you've got these herbs that are all, growing wild. Woodland Herbs, the lush green fragrance reflects the splendor of woodland herbs by blending sage and forest woods with a touch of cinnamon and spice. So this isn't the, garden herbs that we're familiar with, or the kitchen herbs with HomeWorx. Ooh, that is a sharp, strong, it is a very green, almost astringent sage. And usually sage is more powdery, but this is like strong sage. A lot of green, it's like a heavy green. Almost could be some like patchouli or something in there. But green, or like dried fig kind of almost, but not quite, but that same sort of powder. Not sure the woods, whatever would be like a green, fresh, young wood, but powdery. And then the cinnamon and spice, maybe right on the top. There is some of the brightness is spice. So it's not just, it's a blend of herbs and spices in that sense. It's not woodland herbs, woodland herbs and spices, because there's a bit of that dried sort of spice to it. I think that's where some of the heaviness comes from, not just the green of the herbs, and again, some sort of like a fresh patchouli, a little bit or something in there, but like almost like a star anise, but you don't get that licorice. I'm thinking of like a chartreuse liqueur, which has all kinds of heavy, but still bright and sweet green herbs and things thrown in it, and a good hit of sage, but not a warm, comforting sage. It is a strong, again, clearing the forest. And the final one, this is probably the most accessible and may have gone wide, Wild Vetiver. I love Vetiver. This was one of my first introductions early on, 10 years ago to Vetiver as a scent. And this is like a vetiver neroli tobacco. It's just beautiful. This could be absolutely a fine fragrance to wear. What is so interesting, and this one, I'm gonna have to save this, or maybe this other one, interesting, we'll get to this in a second, Vetiver and Wild Vetiver, same exact scent, but this was from a different collection. I may have to put this in my Slatkin Co from the Vault series I'm thinking of, that's the throwbacks, because I could, again, talk 20 minutes just in this Vetiver, because it is beautifully classic. What's wild is getting into that marketing. This was from early 2012. This was a collection that was like Vetiver, lavender, orange blossom, maybe a couple of others. It was just these clean, straight expressions, accords of sort of single notes. Failed, which is ridiculous. But it was good enough of a blend that they brought it back as Wild Vetiver. What is so interesting though, in Bath & Body Works likely saying, okay, you gotta rework these notes, make them more accessible. Notes on the Vetiver candle: warm, earthy Vetiver blends perfectly with rich neroli and fresh citrus with notes of tobacco and coriander. Now, coriander is the seed of cilantro, and it's sweet, it's warm, it's used as a dried spice in many dishes. When it came out here, it was a fragrance that captures the earthy grasses of the woods in a blend of vetiver, green leaves, neroli, coriander, and a touch of black pepper. So of course they wordsmithed it, but what's interesting, what they keep and what they kill. So neroli is listed in both of them, coriander in both of them. Earthy grasses with vetiver, okay. They dropped the fresh citrus, they added green leaves, and they added a touch of black pepper and canceled the tobacco. Because people might, oh, tobacco, what does that smoke? No, tobacco is beautiful in fragrance. It is very vetiver heavy, but it is vetiver with a little bit of black pepper, that neroli, the citrus. It's fresh, it's heavy, it's warm, it's gorgeous, and it's a shame that it never really did anything, but vetiver, bring it back, Harry and team. All right, long video. Again, these are the ones that are perhaps longer because they are so in-depth, and perhaps why some of them were failures is because they were made with the ideas, the brains, the noses of Slatkin Co. Tried to sold mass market Bath & Body Works. Again, I'm not hating on Bath & Body Works. If anyone thinks that I'm talking ill of them, I purchased many candles. I have too many candles of Bath & Body Works from the past 12 years. But at the same time, they are continuing to sort of go more and more mass market, and it's working for them. They're record profits, good for the brand, but they don't really take the risks of going for a fine fragrance build in something like, well, any of these. Whereas Slatkin Co has, master perfumers who are creating these. All that to say, I would love to see any of these reimagined, relaunched with Slatkin Co, whether it's under the HomeWorx umbrella or there really is this sort of top-end Slatkin Co collection. Would love to see that. So let me know what you think. If you smell any of these, what your thoughts are on the idea of sort of, these sort of truly fine fragrance in wax form, obviously built with the top, middle, bottoms of a fine fragrance, which is what Harry and Slatkin Co are known for, and I love that. No, don't get me wrong. I love the blueberry cheesecake, I'm sure, that's coming from HomeWorx. So it's not a, stuck your nose up at it. There is a space for both sides of the spectrum of fine built moss and cedar flowers alongside blueberry cheesecake, because you can bet 9 in the morning when I'm rolling out of bed and making some coffee, moss and cedar flowers is not what I'm going to be vibing with. I'm going to want that blueberry cheesecake lit for a nice sweet start to the morning, and then go into the afternoon maybe with some woodland herbs or something like that. So I'll just say room for both, and I want to see more crossover between brands and quite honestly consumers, enthusiasts like us, experimenting with outside of our wheelhouse, because that's where the good stuff happens, outside of what we're comfortable and what we know. So that is the wrap up on the Slatkin Co. from the Vault, Harry Bring Them Back series. So that is it. Let me know what you think, and until next time, take care.